Ladies and gents, welcome back. Canada's government has a spending problem. They just can't seem to reel things in, so they're going to have to do something about that, and that something is raise your taxes. That's right. Here's the news this morning. Imagine being awoken by a notification like this. I know Canada is struggling financially. Let's hike a tax that should have been removed 2 decades ago. Oh, and hike some other taxes too to meet Mark Carney's promises to the European Union. Thank you, Vesper Digital, for posting that on X. Here's the article from the Globe and Mail. Canada should consider hiking GST, other taxes to pay for defense spending boost. That's right. So this is the pledge that we got from Mark Carney to increase our NATO spending, our defense budget spending to 5% of our GDP. We can't afford this, but the elbows went down after the election, and this is not a negotiation. This is just a capitulation to the demands of the guy down south. This is the reality of the situation. Now, a lot of people will say, Clyde, you support Donald Trump. Yeah, I do actually. And I think Canada should spend more on defense, but really 5% of GDP, sure, if we could afford that, but we're not really doing that hot right now. So this is where negotiation should come into play, but let's get into this. Opinion up to defense spending. Canada must cut deeper, tax harder, and borrow more all at once. Wow, that sounds like something we can all afford to do. The Carney government has delayed tabling a budget until the fall. Spoiler, it's because they don't have a budget. They're just spending more and more and more. But budget officer Yves Guiraud has estimated that the deficit this fiscal year will likely exceed the $62.3 billion shortfall projected in the Liberal Party's election platform that was released in April. I would honestly say that it's probably higher than that. It's probably even higher than that entirely. But it also recommended a modest increase in the federal goods and service tax, as well as other taxes. This is crazy because if you recall, the GST was introduced by Mulroney to balance the budget. They balanced the budget, and the tax came. Again, illustrating the fact that the government, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government solution. Thank you, Milton Friedman, for those wise words. But Pierre Poilievre was interviewed recently at while attending the Calgary Stampede, and he spoke about budgetary stuff with Mark Carney. And then this is not gonna stop. This is just gonna be ongoing. They're gonna spend more. This is the reality of the situation.
Some economists now project this would be the single biggest deficit in Canadian history outside of COVID.
Right.
Way bigger than Justin Trudeau ran in his last year, and bigger than Trudeau had projected. So, so much for the fiscally responsible banker who's really good with money. He told us he was going to, and I quote, spend less.
Today, I'm announcing a new approach to how we manage the budget, how we manage government spending. And the essence of this is to spend less and invest more. That means reining in government spending so that Canada can invest more as a country. What we will do as a government is to focus on reducing spending if I am elected. It's clear that the federal government is spending too much.
Right? This is not something he can claim that he did under different circumstances. We knew about the trade war back then, and he said he would, quote, spend less. He's already introduced one spending bill that has the cost of government rising 8% in 1 year, which is like 2.5 times the rate of inflation and population growth combined. So he's spending way more than Trudeau. And
just a little context to how much Trudeau has spent. This is a great post from Welcome to Canuckistan. Imagine spending $11 billion on overseas gender programs while your own country decays into the unaffordable place it is today. Yeah, this is from the Winnipeg Sun saying, revealed Justin Trudeau spent $11 billion, not on gender programs here in Canada. They spent probably more than that here. They spent that much on overseas gender programs, which probably went through these NGOs and funneled right back into the pockets of the politicians right there in Ottawa. But this is the reality of the situation.
It's like a massive morbidly obese man putting on an extra 20 or 30 pounds. And it would be one thing if he were started off skinny. Like if we had a lean, mean government in Ottawa and he came along and said, well, we could afford to put on some padding, then people would say, okay, fine, it's been tough years. But this is like the most morbidly obese government we've had maybe in our history. And this guy thinks it needs to be fattened up further. Of course, that doesn't come without costs. It'll be inflation in the short run and higher taxes in the long run. We're going to fight like hell against this overspending. And we will run in the next election on a platform to cut bureaucracy, corporate welfare, consultants, and foreign aid to bring down the cost of government.
So Pierre Poilievre now running in Alberta, in a riding in Alberta, to try to get his seat back that he lost in the last election. He's still the party leader, but he can't sit in Parliament as it stands. So he's in Alberta. Campaigning on this, and this is some of the other stuff that he was saying. Jasmine Lane saying this is without a doubt the most powerful thing Pierre Poilievre has ever said. Yeah, share this with every Liberal you know.
They pass laws that stop things, and then they dig into your pocket to subsidize those same things. As Ronald Reagan put it, if anything moves, a Liberal will tax it.
Yep.
If it keeps moving, a Liberal will regulate it. And when it stops moving, a Liberal will subsidize it. Now, the commonality and the consistency in all of this is the simple. By blocking you from doing something and then making you ask the government to help you do it, it makes you reliant on them. It puts them at the center of all power, in charge of your life. And that is their mission, that is their goal. Mark Carney wants it.
That is the mission and that is the goal. And there was a bipartisan effort recently to do that. Now, this has become a hot button issue for people in the Western separation movement, people who are looking to, especially in Alberta, to become an independent province, because autonomy and independence have become a big issue here in Canada. Whereas Bill C-5, which was almost unanimously passed in the House of Commons by also the federal Conservative Party, does a lot of just that, and it's become something of a contentious issue. This is by National Observer saying Bill C-5 is not just bad policy, it's a constitutional mess. This is a big problem aimed at streamlining interprovincial trade and fast-tracking major projects. Bill C-5 has been heavily criticized by Indigenous people, environmental groups, legal experts who warn it erodes foundational democratic principles and allows the government to circumvent environmental laws and run roughshod over Indigenous rights. Not just environmental laws, but provincial sovereignty. This is a big problem. And of particular concern is Part 2, the Building Canada Act. If passed, it would apply to projects that the federal cabinet designates as being in the national interest. Wow, I love that. I love this verbiage because we've heard terms like this, the national interest, eminent domain, things like that. We heard from the likes of, I don't know, this guy, and perhaps this guy, or maybe even this guy. Doesn't he have a relative here in Canada? I don't know. I think he has some offspring that did quite well here. But this is the reality of the situation. Bill C-5 is a mess. It's absolutely a mess. And this is something that was brought forward, I think, in very short-sightedness and supported by the federal Conservatives, because once they get into power, they'll get to use this power. I hate to say it, but this was a bad move, bringing about Bill C-5. But this is along the lines of other stuff that we're seeing here in Canada. Here's another bill that's being introduced.
Universal basic income is now going to be coming to Canada. The bill is S206, guaranteed basic income, meaning that you'd get $2,000 a month at the age of 17 and up. Tell me, what do you guys think?
Yeah, what do you guys think? Honestly, this is Bill S-206, an act to develop a national framework for a guaranteed livable basic income. Yeah, that's right. Just if we're not spending enough money, let's just spend some more. Let's absolutely just spend some more and get it out there, because this is the reality. They're really focusing on getting us used to making all kinds of sacrifices here. In fact, Bratney put this one out there. CBC is grooming Canadians to accept less pay for more, less and pay more. Sacrifice is a word heavily used lately, and I think we're willing to give more.
Yvonne, we got about 60 seconds left. How do they prepare the public for what seems to be coming, in this fall budget? I mean, I guess
it's
stories
coming
of today are the start of it, but there needs to be a broader conversation, it seems.
I don't think Canadians understand, I think, how much it will affect them. It may not. People want their CCB, they want their dental care, their pharma care, they want their tax cut, etc. But to invest more and spend less is exactly what Prime Minister Carney campaigned on. So I think people are ready. I think we also, given what's happened in the United States, Canadians are willing to take some sacrifice and understand, as long as they see it's tangible and they understand exactly what they're getting out of it, and even if it means a better future for Canada and a longer plan for that, I think Canadians can understand that.
So we're going to have to get used to getting less of the services that our tax dollars were initially supposed to go to, so that we can afford to pay for a lot of these programs that they want to bring in at international levels. That's just fantastic. Isn't that exactly what they said the Conservatives were? I'll leave that one to you guys. What do you think about this idea that we need to sacrifice a little bit? You're just going to have to forego maybe that dental care you needed, perhaps that medical care you needed, perhaps some of the other things that the government has guaranteed to you as some sort of entitlement, so that the government can spend money on other things. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.